You're watching Reality Check, decoding the big stories. Tonight, we uncover the multiple loopholes, legal and logical, behind the government's new controversial attempt to bring a national ban on beef through the back door. Now, let's first take a look at what the centre has done before pointing out these loopholes. They've passed new rules on the functioning of animal markets, ostensibly to protect animals from cruelty, but inserted into those rules a restriction on the sale only of cattle, specifically Section 22 of their Gazette. Restriction of sale of cattle. It says that the member secretary of the Animal Market Committee shall ensure that cattle to the market, anyone who's bringing cattle to the market will have to give an undertaking that the cattle has not been brought to the market for sale for slaughter. Also, the address of the purchaser and the procurer has to give their identity proof, and also to give a declaration that the animal shall not be sold up to 6 months. This decision now has met with widespread criticism, with several states claiming that this impinges on their federal rights, and others pointing out that it will badly hit jobs in meat processing, leather, as well as rural livelihoods. So there have been protests in states across the country. Now, this has led the Ministry of Environment and Forest to issue a clarification, claiming that their rules do not apply to food choices, but only to animal cruelty. It says that the prime focus of the regulation is to protect the animals from cruelty and not to regulate the existing trade in cattle for slaughter houses. There are, however, multiple problems with that logic. For one, the slaughter of animals for food is actually allowed under animal cruelty laws, so long as there is no cruelty involved. Take a look at that section, Section 11 of the Animal Cruelty Act, which says, treating animals cruelly, nothing in this section shall apply to the commission or omission of any act in the course of the destruction or the preparation for destruction of any animal as food for mankind, unless such destruction was accompanied by the infliction of unnecessary pain or suffering. But the Environment Ministry section has banned the sale of cattle without citing what cruelty is it that specifically cattle endure when they're sold for slaughter. Secondly, the section only bans the sale of cattle for slaughter. The sale for slaughter for no other animal is banned. So if the argument is that it's only about animal cruelty, then why single out cattle? Now, why would the centre attempt something like this? Well, for starters, because a national beef ban has long been on the agenda of the BJP and particularly the Sangh Parivar. But it can't, because legislation on beef is in the hand of state governments. As a result, beef is legal in states like Kerala, West Bengal, the Northeast and so on. The slaughter of buffaloes is legal across India, whether it's BJP or non-BJP states. But animal cruelty laws are on what is known as a concurrent list, which means that the centre can also pass laws that can trump state laws. And that's why the law may have been passed using this rider. Now, the Environment Ministry also came up with another rider in its press note. It says that it's only banning the sale of cattle in markets not outside anywhere else. Quote, that through this process, livestock markets are for animal trade for agriculture. An animal for slaughter will have to be brought from farmers at their farms. Now, here are the problems with that logic. For one, the definition of livestock markets in the notification is so broad-based that it can apply to virtually anywhere. It says an animal market means a market, a place or sale yard or any other premises or place to which animals are brought from other places and are exposed to sale and auction. Second, the sheer impracticality of this. India's meat export industry is together valued at about $5 billion. What is exported, incidentally, is buffalo meat. Now, the government surely knows that a bulk of this is bought and sold at markets. According to one estimate, 16 million buffaloes were slaughtered by the meat industry annually, of which 14 million were procured in cattle markets. So nearly 90% are bought and sold at markets. Remember, we're not even talking about cows now. We're just talking about buffaloes, and that too no longer productive, a valuable source of income to the Indian farmer, and of course also powering the meat industry. Manas Pratap Singh reports from one livestock market in western Uttar Pradesh on how the fear of the new law is already rupturing a vital link in the rural economy.
We're in Bulandshahr district's Galoti livestock market. Now, normally this market would function like any other cattle market in India. Cattle would be brought here every week to be sold. Milk yielding cattle would be bought by farmers who are into dairy farming, while the buffaloes, which have become old and infirm, would be bought by slaughterhouses and their agents. 300 such buffaloes are bought and sold every week here. But today it's completely deserted. The reason could be many, but the two major reasons are the new tough laws and also, some say, cattle vigilantes.
क्या बोले हैं ये बजरंगी वाले ये छीन लें रास्ते में से दूध किन्ने ये कोई कट रही है भाई किसान उस दूध बेच बेच के बच्चे पाल रहे हैं ये उन्हें भी छीन ले दूध किन्ने भी बजरंग वाले
अगर पैसे ना दिए जाते ढोर छिनवाते हैं पब्लिक को पुलिस वाले 100 नंबर वाले हाँ 100 नंबर वाले
The new law can seriously damage the rural economy. Now, what happens is that when a buffalo gets old and infirm, farmers get the buffalo here to the mandi and sell it for around 20 to 30,000 to slaughterhouses. Invest that money into a milk-yielding cattle. Now, the entire cycle has been ruptured. Hear it from the farmers we met around 4 kilometers from the market.
जो भैंस पहले दूध नहीं दे रही थी उन्हें तो हम बेचते फिर पैसे देते भैंस ले लेते थे और नहीं लेकिन अब जब भैंस दूध नहीं दे रही और भैंस वो भी नहीं बिक रही है बताओ जी मेरा बंधने तो ज़्यादा नहीं मैं कहाँ तो और ज़्यादा भैंस बांधूँ दूध नहीं होता तो मेरा रोजगार कहाँ से चला था ये मम्मी ये पिताजी बूढ़े मम्मी बूढ़ियाँ इन्हें छोड़ दे कहाँ नौकरी करूँ 6,000 ज़्यादा है इस बात है मेरे लिए तो सोचो
अभी जैसे आपकी एक ये भैंस खड़ी हुई है जी जो दूध नहीं दे रही है 3 है ऐसी आप बता रहे हैं तो अब इन तीनों का आप क्या करोगे
सर अब तो मैं इन्हें जैसा था रही है जितना मुझे पे थवाया जाए इतना थवाऊंगा ना थवाया जाएगा तो अपना धंधा खोल दूंगा बाहर तो छोड़ दूंगा कहीं भी जाओ क्या करूंगा और मैं बताओ इनका जब इन्हें तो लेवेगा भी नहीं और मेरा बंधने तो ज्यादा नहीं है तो दूध दे नहीं रही तो इनका मैं क्या करूंगा जो धंधा खोल दूंगा सड़क पर कहीं भी जाओ फिर ये और मैं त्याग करूंगा मजदूर आदमी त्याग रहेगा मैं सल्फाज ज्यादा अपनी आत्महत्या तो करूँ ना हूँ
बेसिकली किसान लोग जब अपने लिए भैंस खरीदते हैं वो दूध वाली खरीदते हैं जब उसका टाइम पीरियड एक टेन्योर ख़त्म हो जाता है दूध देना बंद कर देती है जब वो दूध देना बंद कर देती है तो बेसिकली उसे सेल ऑफ कर देते हैं क्योंकि वो लाइबिलिटी बन जाती है जब वो दूध देना बंद कर देती है तो उसे खिलाना पड़ता है उन्हें कुछ प्रोडक्टिविटी तो आती नहीं तो फिर उसे सेल आउट कर देते हैं सेल आउट करके जो पैसा आता है उसमें थोड़ा सा पैसा डाल के वो दोबारा दूध वाली भैंस खरीद लेते हैं ये सर्कल है उन लोगों का
The farmers say that they're left with no other option but to leave these buffaloes out on the street. They either need a monthly compensation or an allowance to keep feeding the buffaloes which are no longer economically viable. With camera person Xavier Thomas in Bulandshahr, Manas Pratap Singh, NDTV.
Now, this is not just important for what it's doing to livelihoods, jobs or personal eating choices. But this new law comes at a time when Gau Raksha violence is at its peak. These are just the latest pictures of Gau Raksha violence in the past 72 odd hours from Orissa and Maharashtra. And it's in this climate that attempts by the centre and particularly BJP-run state governments to impose ever more punitive and, as we've seen, irrational restrictions on the sale of cattle will only feed the vigilante industry. Now, after a major backlash from states and industry, government, we're told, according to sources, are mulling removing buffaloes from that notification. We'll wait and actually see if that does come through. But joining us tonight to debate this, Gaurav Bhatia, spokesperson BJP, is on the show with us, as well as Gauri Moleki, who is from the NGO People for Animals associated with Menaka Gandhi, who is in fact a petitioner in the Supreme Court, which in some ways set the stage for this ban. Also joining us is Fauzan Alvi, Secretary of the All India Meat Exporters Association, Harish Damodaran, Senior Journalist from the Indian Express, and Gopal Shankara Narayanan, Supreme Court lawyer, joining us from Chennai. Now, Gaurav Bhatia, if I can just start with you, have you been given any sort of background which would try to justify what exactly was the rationale behind this ban? Because as we've just pointed out, and you're a lawyer and you know this, that how can you justify using animal cruelty laws to put a ban on sale for slaughter?
Srinivasan, absolutely, the central government is well within its powers to bring these rules, and under the subsections 1 and 2 of section 38, the central government has the power. And since Gauri ji is
just
sitting
explain
here,
that in simple terms, because passing laws on sale for passing laws on slaughter is a state subject. So how can you use animal cruelty as a proxy? What does animal cruelty have to do with slaughter?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not a proxy, because if you look at the Schedule 7 of the Constitution of India, there is entry 17 that talks about prevention of cruelty to animals. And that empowers the central government to frame laws under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960.
But
and why I say this
question.
is because in the past it was seen...
It's not, you're not answering my question. What is the link between animal cruelty and slaughter?
I am answering. Yes, the cruelty is this, that if an animal is tortured or is taken from one place to the other and then illegally slaughtered, it also amounts to cruelty to the animal. And therefore, these rules will now provide guidelines and will also give protection to these animals.
No, that answer made absolutely no sense. How can taking animals from one place to another illegally amount to cruelty? Let's try and see.
Because there has been incidents in the past. I was giving you an example of a matter that was
I'm sorry, Gaurav, you're confusing illegal slaughter with animal cruelty. The
cows, buffaloes and cattle were being taken from India to Bangladesh and also to Nepal to be slaughtered. And we saw that how under very inhuman conditions they were being carried in one trolley where 30 buffaloes and cows were loaded. So,
okay, can I just bring in Gauri Moleki?
And second, it is also cruelty to animals.
Okay, by the way, when you keep saying animals, the restriction is only on cattle. So it doesn't seem to apply to any other animal. Gauri Moleki, you were a petitioner in this case.
Cattle is also part of the larger genre of animals.
Okay, Gauri Moleki, would you have a better explanation for why you are supporting this ban? Because like we've just pointed out, there is one thing which is slaughter, there is another thing which is animal cruelty.
Yeah, I'll make 2 points. I'll make 2 points.
Yes.
One is we first have to understand the context of these rules. These rules were asked to be made by the centre after all the departments and ministries and several states, state government representations sat together and framed regulations, framed recommendations to stop the smuggling of cattle towards the eastern borders.
Yes, that
now
context
this is
not
happening.
There in the release.
This is not happening from one state or from 2 states. It's happening from all the states like a funnel. Now, and this kind of transport is unique to India. Okay. It doesn't happen in Western countries because there the abattoirs are next to farms. But again, animals are not transported; they are just slaughtered from farms to abattoirs.
What does that have to do with preventing sale of
yes, I'm coming to that.
What does that have to do with animal cruelty?
I'm coming to that. So when we allow these markets to go unchecked, it was discovered that all these markets are only kind of fronts for organized cattle smuggling mafia. Recently,
that's a sweeping statement.
No, that is absolutely a sweeping.
One second,
it
is
a completely 100%
Where
true
is the
statement.
Proof of this?
The proof was put before the Supreme Court, which is why these rules were asked to be brought in.
The Supreme Court, to my knowledge, correct me, Harish Damodharan, if I'm wrong here, I don't think asked for any ban on sale for slaughter. They may have asked for guidelines on ensuring that there's no cruelty.
The Supreme Court asked for a committee to deliberate and come up with recommendations. Those recommendations included that markets should be regulated and slaughter has to be... See, there's a supply
why
chain
only cattle,
for slaughter.
By the way? Why, if it's animal cruelty, why only cattle?
If you let me answer.
Sure.
Okay. Now, cattle is transported over long distances, over days to be smuggled out of the eastern borders and in the south towards Kerala. However, chicken and goats are not transported to such large distances. They are immediately taken for, for slaughter.
So because it's shorter distances,
no, it's not just shorter distances. There's no smuggling of it.
Okay,
you have to understand that the smuggling, the international smuggling and complete illegal slaughter is more, in bovines.
Fawzan Alvi, please respond. Is this true that cattle markets are the sites of massive, large-scale illegal cattle transportation and slaughter?
It's just a fallacy. A market is a place where a farmer gets a fair price, as simple as that. Okay, there are people who are selling for dairy, there are people selling for unproductive for meat.
Right.
As simple as that. It is not yesterday that it started, it's been on for generations. Meat exports have been going on for last 50 years.
Right.
And secondly, this act of 1960, which Mr. Bhatia is talking about, doesn't talk about slaughter anywhere. Okay, animal cruelty has nothing to do with trading.
This is trading.
Trading. No, we are talking about trading.
It does.
No, where does it say?
So
are you going to stop the farmer from trading?
It explicitly says that cattle have to be slaughtered. Any animal can only be slaughtered in a licensed slaughterhouse.
Yeah, so these are
India
we are
has
talking about
less
license.
than 500 licensed slaughterhouses.
We are
all
talking
of this
about
cattle is being slaughtered in homes, in mohallas, on the roads.
You're again making statements completely devoid of proof.
No, of course it's proof. You can check the website of the Food Safety and Standards Act. Check whether all the slaughterhouses, in fact, there are some states which don't even have a single slaughterhouse.
I still don't understand what that has to do with animal cruelty. Okay, let me just bring in Gopal Shankar Narayanan. Just a second.
Have you seen poultry the way it is transferred?
No, of course. It is. It's terrible. Gopal Shankar Narayanan, moving away from the rhetoric, on legal terms alone, is what the centre has attempted to do. Do you think it's tenable?
I think it's completely untenable. It's a backdoor route they've used for other things in the past, making Aadhaar mandatory with a money bill and things like that. So it's just following that line. To respond to what Gaurav said, since he has the 7th schedule open in front of him, you could ask him to take a look at list 2, which is the state list. And Vasu, your summing up was perfect with reference to the legal background behind all this. There's one point that you made right at the outset, that it's entirely within the state's domain to make laws with reference to cattle slaughter, and they have made laws in many states. The other thing that comes from the state list is the regulation of markets. So these markets which are sought to be regulated by these rules cannot be touched by Parliament at all. It's only the states that can make rules with reference to these markets. That's point number 1. So it's not within the domain of Parliament at all. Secondly, these are rules. This is not the law. So these rules are made under that 1960 Act that Gaurav referred to. So for 57 years, they didn't bother making any rules with reference to markets. What they did make, which Gauri just pointed out, is in 2001, they came out with the slaughterhouse rules. Now those rules were limited only to the question of cruelty as far as the animals themselves were concerned. So that aspect is taken care of already. Now if the law doesn't permit you to touch the slaughter of animals, there is no way the subordinate rules under it can go further and touch it. Not only is it not within the domain, it's not even within its rule-making power. So how did the central government try to get away with this?
Hari, even I'm completely baffled. I'll come to you in a second. Harish Damodaran, what sort of impact is this likely to have on the rural economy?
See, I don't know about the constitution and the legal aspects. Okay, there are better people to tell me. Okay. But see, we have to understand that our system is different from the West. In the West, you have beef cattle and you have dairy cattle. Beef cattle are basically Angus breeds, okay, and dairy cattle are Holstein Friesian. You know, so there are two sets of farmers. There are beef cattle farmers. There are dairy farmers. In India, there is no such demarcation. The same farmer who rears a buffalo, you know, and he milks it, after some time he sells it. So you can have only one market where you sell, whether it is milch animals, whether it is draft animals. I think I think what these people are borrowing is a Western model, which is not applicable to India. In India, and the second point which I want to make is, suppose assume I am, say, a farmer in Rajkot. I'm a farmer in Rajkot. I have unproductive buffaloes. Okay. Now there are no slaughterhouses nearby. So where do I sell? Number three. Suppose today there is a drought. I cannot afford to feed those buffaloes. Now what am I supposed to do? So the advantage of a market is where the buyer,
what sort of a
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying where you have
illegal?
the buyer.
Why do you assume all slaughterhouses are illegal? Can I just
Because
ask you,
there is a
Fawzan
law
Alvi,
in this
have you had a
country.
chance
There is a law in
have
this
you had a
country.
chance to make this point to people like Gauri about the legality of how slaughterhouses are operated?
Yes, sir. And in fact, I have had the chance to meet Gauriji twice at her office.
Okay.
And we tried explaining which
at your office, okay.
At our office, yes. And I guess we were not able to drive the point
There
across.
is a law in this country. Let me tell you the context of this meeting now that we've come to it. There
Where was
is a
this
law
meeting?
in this country.
This was at the Shastri Bhavan.
There is a law in
At
this
Shastri
country
Bhavan.
that says
No,
that
can I just ask you, sorry, why at Shastri Bhavan?
I'm advisor to the minister.
Oh, I see. So in that context.
That's right.
Okay.
Now,
but the
he offered to come to my
minister's
office.
portfolio has nothing to do with animal cruelty.
Well, I am also on the Delhi State Slaughterhouse Monitoring Committee.
Okay, which is
by
again
virtue
not
of
connected
which,
to the minister's
yes,
portfolio.
no, it isn't. It's in my personal capacity,
All
which
right.
is why the Delhi State Slaughterhouse Monitoring Committee asked to this Ghazipur slaughterhouse
Yes.
for it to be inspected.
Right.
During the inspection, it was found that they were blatantly flouting the food safety and standards norms. They were not stunning the buffaloes. The buffaloes that were coming into the slaughter hall from the lairage were being electrocuted with live wires that were plugged
Again, what
into.
does that
One
have to
second, let
do-
me finish. You will have to let me finish.
but
Those
this is not
live
germane
wires,
to our
that
discussion.
video is on the YouTube. They were being bought from the Ghazipur market and they were being brought into these slaughterhouses, electrocuted and hung up from one leg upside down while they were still alive. The
Again,
conveyor belt was moving, they were being
how is
hacked
this
and they were
germane
still
to a
alive.
national
No,
ban
one
on
second.
sale for
One
cattle
sec.
for
I will
slaughter?
come to that if you let
Law-
me.
the law-
they were still
I'm sorry,
alive
this
and
is not
kicking
germane.
till they
No,
were
you
being
can't hijack the
slaughtered.
discussion with
Till
something
they were
which is
being
not germane
skinned.
to it. You
Let
can't
me
hijack
come
the
to it.
discussion which is
no,
not
I'm
germane
not
to it.
hijacking it. I'm
You are.
just saying
Okay, let
that
me go to
there are
Mohammed
laws
Salim.
in this country that prevent illegal slaughterhouses from torturing
Okay, but that
animals.
has nothing to
The
do with our
the
discussion. Can
legal
I just-
slaughterhouses have to have stunning arrangements.
Okay,
These
can I just go
people
to
who
Mohammed Salim, who's not had a chance to speak? Mohammed Salim, now we are already seeing protests from states like West Bengal and Kerala and other states which have currently laws which permit the slaughter of cows. Now, do you think that protest, the pressure, we're already seeing perhaps some rethink on buffalo, but will you continue these protests? What exactly do you think is the attempt by the centre here? Do you believe the view that this is all just about cruelty, or do you think this is a proxy national beef ban being brought through the back door?
Had it been the cruelty, then even goat meat, even buffalo would not have taken out of this order, because cruel animals are animals. But in the garb of some religious sentiment, what government is doing, which is illegal. The Supreme Court already ordered the state, the Himachal High Court, please allow me, at least you should not have cruelty on me. I am also an animal, though rational. So Himachal Assembly passed a law, Supreme Court has put a hold on it. Now government is trying to circumvent it, and it will have a great impact on the poor farmers, because farmers were told that their income will be doubled. On the other hand, they are not getting the real price for their crops, and they have this after the old age. What they will do with that, and how they will carry in Bengal, in every rural areas, almost every day you will have weekly haats, rural markets, and the poor fellows will bring in 1 or 2 cows or goats or chicken, hen, and it will be sold. So you are authorizing this so-called cow vigilance or the goons just to, in the name of prevention of cruelty or implementing government orders, just you have vasuli.
Okay, we're out of time.
Just you will have some extra tax. And this is what is being done.
We're out of time. Okay, thank Mohammed Salim, thanks very much. We are out of time. We will come back to this. We will come back to this because this is a big story. I know everyone has a lot to say. We will continue our focus on this on NDTV, but like I said, I'm being told repeatedly, time has run out. Thanks so much for watching Reality Check. Goodbye, good night.